Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. As we prepare for the next hour with Varla Ventura, we're going to have to cut her short tonight. Poor thing has to be up at like 5 a.m. Yeah, and she's not even going fishing or hockey practice. I don't get why she's getting up at 5 a.m., but we got a great show. Varla's going to be here. UFO Max with Grant Tavius is going to be here in the second hour. Then Josh Rutledge, the Wizard, in hour number 3. But first, we're going to say hello to all of you. Why? Because I kind of like you. I kind of like you all. Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a gold medal tonight. T-Bone with a silver. Kitty Caddywhack with a bronze medal. Good job, Kitty. Back in medal contention. Mel WD-40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show. Because you always want to go into a show with Varla nice and smooth. You don't want any rigidness. She doesn't like it. So we're lubing up as we speak. Thank you, Mel. Don't forget to give yourself a little shot of extra juice as well, my friend. Cage Cat and 81, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us, formerly known as Vamp Skider. There she is, Cage Cat. Am I pronouncing that right? Let me know. Let me know. All right, moving on down. We got Trucker Andrew, Robert Lamoth, and Race Fan way down there. Holy cow, buddy. All right, Lil Cam kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So Little Cam also just got out of the gym. Yep. He was bench pressing 500 pounds 86 times before coming on into the chat room tonight. All right, moving on down. Necessary Dialogue. How are you? Forrest Louie is here. Forrest Louie will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Scrolling on down, we got Chris, we have Chasmataz, and we have, well, let's scroll down. It's Thunderhead, everybody. There he is. There he is, Thunderhead. What did he spell there? Kerflancho? I don't understand. All right, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Frankie B. How you doing? Mama Catherine, there she is. Mwah! I love you, my dear. Hope you enjoy. I know you love Varla. I totally know you love Varla. You love Grant. You love Josh. So it's going to be a great show for you. Michael Morris, how you doing? The Eternity at Large. And Carol Amerio, Aussie Boss Tiger. Nice to have you here as well. Who do we have next? Well, let's scroll on down and see, shall we? Well, let's see here. Let's see. Where are y'all? Where are you? Jennifer Beveridge. There she is. As well as, let's see here. Luscious Jules, nice to see you. Operation Shutdown, Undead Jed, Redneck, how you doing? And who else is it? Integrationing is here. Integrationing will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. From Stockholm, Sweden, wearing the Trey Kroner, number 48 in your program, starting at left wing tonight. Lars Janssen, there he is. Al Garay over on Twitch, so excited to be on with Varla tonight. that he literally did 3 hours and 33 minutes on the elliptical to warm up his legs. Bobbert, or Dr. Bob, how are you? Nice to see you. Fap Nuts, Erica Stover, and Lisa Smith, thanks for coming on in. And Undead Jed, how are you? Let's get the radio sign going. Yeah, because Varla is all about the radio now. Matthew Goodka, how are you? Here we go. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, wearing my Merle board shirt that I just got from our store. Yes, it looks damn good. Damn good. Go check it on out. We're at roll call, waiting for Varla Ventura here for the next hour, and then Grant Tavius Max, then the Wizard. But first, let's say hello to our people here. There's Grantolo right there. Kathy Evans, nice to see you. And who is next? Let's see. It's Blue Cruise, everybody. And we're caught up. Do me a favor. Super Chat is open. Shop at our store because you get nice swag like the Merle board shirt. And of course, CaribouCon.com. Get your tickets right now for CaribouCon.com. CaribouCon.com. September 18th through 20th. Throw those horns up, everybody. It's that time of the night. It's time to rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by CaribouCon. Go to CaribouCon.com for September 18th to 20th, right here in the heart of British Columbia. We have an amazing show tonight. Varla Ventura in hour number 1 for our cryptid world, where we are going to get into fairy tales and the darker side of them. In hour 2, Grant Baker, otherwise known as Grant Tavius Max, UFO Max. He's going to come in for hour 2. Then the Wizard, Josh Rutledge, with the UFO report in hour number 3. So let's get right to it. Varla Ventura is here, her website, varlaventura.net, where you can find all of her books, as well as at any major bookstore. Yes, there are still bookstores out there, people. And yes, they still smell good with books. Remember books? Way, way better than any online reading, like all of those kudos and or whatever they're called, Kindles, or I don't know what the hell they're called, but I don't do them because I like books. And Varla is one of the most talented authors on the creepier, the darker side of the paranormal, supernatural, encrypted world. It's the way she grew up. It's the way she loves to be a little freaked out every now and again. And she brings that love, that passion, and that spookiness to each and every one of her writings. Let's bring her on in. Varla Ventura, it is always great to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
Sniffing a book.
Oh, there's nothing better.
There's nothing better. I'm good. How are you?
I am
It's
great.
really bright in here, but
I am absolutely great. Now, we only have you for 1 hour tonight
yeah.
because you're on an editing project for a publisher, and you got to be up like 2 o'clock Pacific,
2 o'clock
5 a.m.
Pacific. Yeah.
Eastern.
5
You know,
yeah, 5 Central, 6 Eastern. Yes.
yeah, that would
And
be 3 o'clock then, my time.
And normally I do this show until it's about one, I guess it's one my time, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm getting old. I can't subsist on 3 hours of sleep anymore like I used to.
I
Not
get
unless
you.
I can nap all day.
I get you. But you know what? This is going to be a one and done thing, and you'll be back to normal next month. Next
Hmm.
month. That's the way you'll do it. I
That's
promise
right.
you. I
That's right.
promise you. We're going to get into the darker side of fairy tales. I don't want to take too much time up here because I know people love it when you are on the show. What makes fairy tales that we all grew up with Mother Goose, Old Mother Hubbard, and everybody in between, what makes them have such a sinister side?
Well, interestingly, the some of the earlier fairy tales, when stories were first being documented, written down, these were oral stories that had been told for generations, oral history, um, told around the campfire, etc. And there was a big movement. I mean, stories had been recorded obviously before this, but there was a big movement, sort of in the early 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s, to start gathering stories. I think it was the beginning of the industrial revolution, and so you could see ways of life were beginning to change, and there were a number of students and scholars who recognized that life was changing, and with that, some of the old ways were being lost. And so there was about 100-year period there where stories were recorded in various countries, largely in Europe, Russia, Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, but also in other parts of the world. But there was this big movement to sort of record these old fairy tales and these old stories as they had been originally told. And so, you had the Grimm brothers in Germany. You had the Langs, which was Andrew Lang and his wife, gathering stories from all over the world. William Butler Yeats was traveling around Ireland recording stories. You had Elliot O'Donnell going throughout Ireland, but also up into Scandinavia. You had Sabine Baring Gould gathering all this werewolf stuff. And with that, just like if I tell you a story and then you retell that story, you're going to put your own spin on it. And when you're taking something, especially from one language to another, a
Yes.
lot of times things are lost in translation. Excellent example is when I was researching the Enchanted Plants book. There's a plant called rampion. Its German term is Rapunzel, and it is the plant at the beginning of the Rapunzel fairy tale that enchants the entire. It's grown in the witch's garden. Now, I knew that plant as rampion in every version that I had read. And then I found a version where it had an introduction to the translation, and they acknowledged the word Rapunzel, which is where the entire character name came from. So it was little things like that. There's so many different variations. Um, but those were also a recording of some dark times, like physically dark times, right? There wasn't modern electricity. There was firelight and candlelight. When it got dark, you needed to be home. It wasn't like you had headlights on your car and you could just cruise along. And if you were to stay out too late, you might get the light of the moon, but you also might encounter a puka, who is a trickster spirit who would show up and sort of take you on some kind of wild ride where you think you're going to be thrown from the back of this horse off of a cliff. Or you might encounter a banshee who starts to follow you and then moan and cry as you're wandering along the path until you eventually realize that someone that you love is going to die. All kinds of crazy stuff like that, right? But some of those original fairy tales, it's a mix. Some people say it's to keep the kids from falling into the bog. Other people say it's to record the existence of the bog monster. So, there's all of these different variations, and it's really interesting to find for example, when I was researching enchanted plants, but also my fairy puka book, I would find different versions of the same story, but they all had like a slightly different variation depending on who the author was, what their background was, what their agenda was. Hans Christian Andersen took a lot of old fairy tales and put a very like happy moral ending on a lot of them. And so there was a lot of supposition of Christianity onto some of these old tales as well. So, but the Little Mermaid, she's walking on a beach and it feels like daggers are stabbing into her feet and her feet are bloody by the time she gets to the castle. She doesn't just wash up on shore, with like this clanging like lobster music or whatever. So it's pretty gruesome, right? The sacrifices that she makes she gives up her voice, all of these things to try and live like a human. It's wild.
I get that. What is the romanticism with fairy tales compared to how we've watered them down from the darker image that they really do tell tales about?
Well, there's the Disneyfication of a lot of the fairy tales. And I say that I'm a fan of a lot of those retellings, those Disney retellings. The art's beautiful. They have all these elements of the original stories, such as Sleeping Beauty and Snow White and such. But they're interpretations, and they were a product of a time where we weren't really putting out grim cartoons. But I think so. There also was this. There's the happily ever after that was really being pushed down everyone's throats, and that's kind of comes out of the Victorian era and the idea that that's when women started wearing white to funerals, to same diff, right, to weddings, and then just. All these traditions were coming out. People were looking to like Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, etc. So I think there was this idea that you could, like, the prince would come in, and frequently these stories were centered around prominent people in whatever area. But like a great example is the story of Snow White, which isn't even called Snow White. It's actually called Snowdrop. And she is poisoned by the queen taking a bite of an apple. And then she's laid out in this coffin, and she's basically like laying in this coffin in a death-like state. It's a glass coffin because the 7 little magical men who have taken her in and love her cannot bring themselves to put her in the ground. So they keep a constant vigil around her. And then a prince rides by and falls in love with her. She's dead in a coffin, or dead, basically dead, appearing dead. She's laying in this glass coffin, and he falls in love with her and insists on taking her. And the little men are just like, no, we're protecting her. We're hoping something is going to happen. She'll come back to life. We can't bear to let her go. But in the span of about 20 minutes in fairy time, which, is probably the equivalent of several days, he manages to convince them that if he takes her back to his village, he might be able to help her somehow, or takes her back to the castle, his kingdom. And so he does. Now, what we think happens is it's true love's kiss that wakes her up. He leans in and he kisses her corpse-like body, mind you, and revives her. But that's not what happens at all. He goes to lift the coffin to attach it to some kind of wagon he's going to put on the back of his horse. And when he does that, he dislodges the piece of poison apple that's in her throat, and she wakes up from that. So they don't even actually kiss in the story. And in most versions, there's no kiss. He says something like, "You are quite safe with me." And then, things progress from there. But it's weird. Like, it's a weird setup, right? This dead girl in a coffin with tiny men around her trying to protect her, and then a random stranger. I mean, that's like kind of next level love at first sight. So But that's a great example where there's elements of several other stories that have been mixed into the version that we know the best, which is the Disney version. That's just culturally, I think, and at least in Western culture, that's the version that we know the best. But there's a much more sinister undertone.
Little
Plus,
Red Riding Hood, a very, very dark story if you think about it. You
very
know, I mean, this is one that is literally about child predators.
right, right, yes, and just the whole. I think like in the end, they cut the wolf open and Grandma hops out. Like that's the happy ending. Like the wolf eats all of these things, but then the woodsman comes along and chops the wolf's head off and tears open his skin, and then Grandma comes out, which is super super gruesome. But yeah, you're talking about there's all kinds of significance with that story and speculation about the Red Riding Hood representing this young girl who's perceived as a woman when she's really just a little child. She's going through a dark woods. She has exorbitant amount of responsibility put upon her to go through these woods and take care of Grandma. Grandma's living alone. The wolf is lurking. There's a lot of very sinister elements to that. And for some reason we have this image of a, girl in a cloak with a basket, skipping along. No wolf is going to bother me.
In the original version, though, didn't Red Riding Hood unknowingly eat her grandmother's flesh and drank her blood?
I don't remember that happening. I don't remember there being an actual like meal, but I do think that she didn't know. There's all the versions where she doesn't recognize the wolf is dressed as her grandma, which I have a theory about because wolves are shapeshifters. Because if you think about it, you're like, how does she not recognize her grandma in this? This wolf in her grandma's clothing. But if you're a shapeshifter and you can, this is like creepy enchanted werewolf guy, because it's not just a regular wolf, he's obviously a werewolf, then of course you could disguise yourself to look much more like a little old lady. It's very disturbing and not plausible, that particular story in my mind. I also think she picks some flowers that may be hallucinogenic. That's another theory I have, that she picks these flowers that she gives to Grandma and everybody just kind of loses it. But there's a lot of different versions of that story, and a lot of them are extremely watered down.
The French version is disgusting.
Is that the flesh-eating one?
That's the flesh-eating one. And then the wolf tricks Little Red Riding Hood into removing her clothing and getting into bed, and no hunter saves her. She dies from it. And the moral of the story is beware of strangers and sexual predators.
Yikes. Or beware of the French. Sorry, kidding. We love you, France.
The Grimm brothers had some very different thoughts, didn't they?
Well, I think they did probably one of the best jobs of recording the stories as they were told to them. And not, again, like I'll bring up Hans Christian Andersen, who was a wonderful writer. And he brought us The Little Mermaid and The Girl Who Trod on a Loaf and a bunch of other like great stories. But he sort of he did his own version. And all of those have this, there's like this Christian moral at the end of all of those. With the Grimm brothers, and also William Butler Yeats did a good job of this as well, I believe. With the Grimm brothers, they were recording the stories as people were telling them, as people were telling them. So they didn't just reinterpret it or change the ending. So sometimes the endings don't make any sense, or they seem like there's something missing, or the stories just seem a little bit choppy. But I believe that's because the Grimm brothers tried to stay as true to what people were telling them as possible. And William Butler Yeats was doing something very similar in Ireland. And same thing, there's all kinds of these all kinds of stories about changelings and pukas and all the trooping fairies. And sometimes they don't totally make sense. They don't always follow like your traditional story arc, or you don't always see like a resolution, or there's just something kind of a little bit, but I think that's just because he was sticking to recording them as an oral historian versus like just turning them into a story himself. And there's a big difference, especially in terms of the folkloric record. And once you've read a lot of those stories, you can really start to see the difference. Like you can almost tell, oh, this was a more authentic as told to story because it's got something a little bit off about it. It doesn't follow all of the engaging story elements that you want in a short story. And then when one does, you know that somebody put a bunch of effort into writing it. No criticism there. I think that's great too. But they're telling a different version of it. They're telling their own version of it, and they're putting their name on it as an author. So there's a difference there.
That makes sense. We got 3.5 minutes to go before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Our good friend Varla Ventura, we only have her till the top of the hour, 1 hour tonight. Getting back to Cinderella in the Grimm's Brothers version. I mean, the stepsisters cut off her toes and heels to fit their toes and heels to fit into the glass slippers.
Oh, it's freaking glorious. I love that story. It's first of all, there is a magical hazel tree that is growing on Cinderella's mother's grave. And from this tree there's a bunch of birds, and this tree is the tree that drops down the gowns and the slippers, and it's actually 3 nights of the ball. So when they try and find who belongs to this missing slipper, the prince knows kind of the general house, and he gets gets the shoe up to one of the sisters, and she can't fit her heel in. And so the mother says, hey, when you're in the castle, you're not going to need to walk. And she chops her heel off. She sticks her foot into the shoe, and it fits. And they right away, somehow the prince is just so enamored that he doesn't understand that there's blood in the shoe. And as they pass under the magical hazel tree, which grows on Cinderella's mother's grave, the birds chant, there's blood in the shoe. There's blood in the shoe. Your true bride still waits for you. And he looks down, sees the blood in the shoe, turns around, goes back, tries the same thing with the second sister. This time she has to chop off her toe as they pass under the tree. There's blood in the shoe. There's blood in the shoe. Your true bride waits for you. Until finally he finds Cinderella, gets her to, Aschenputtel is her name in this story, gets her to put the shoe on. It fits perfect. I guess I don't know. They didn't rinse out the blood. Totally gross. They pass under the tree, and the birds chant, your true bride is, there's no blood in the shoe. There's no blood in the shoe. Your true bride is with you. And then at the very end, the 2 sisters at the wedding, as they're walking down the steps, the 2 sisters put their arms around either side of Cinderella and about to tell her how happy they are for her. And pigeons swoop down and pluck their eyes out. So definitely a slightly different version than more modern.
Definitely not as polite as the North American version.
Right. Not as polite as the Disney version.
Oh my gosh. Like when I was reading about that, about the birds pecking out the sister's eyes and leaving them blind forever, I was like, oh my goodness. Now, the moral of that story is deceit and envy bring permanent consequences.
The moral of that story is don't be a selfish jerk. There you have it.
That's another way to put it. That's another way to put it. We're going to get into one of the most famous ones when we return, Hansel and Gretel. Snow White. We'll talk a little bit more about that. This is the grotesque, the dark side of the fairy tales that we grew up with. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We absolutely love it every time Varla is on because she is just so brilliant when it comes to the darker, macabre side of the cryptid and paranormal world. If you would like to find any of Varla's books, you could do so at varlaventura.net, online at Amazon, And of course, the way I like to buy the books, at any major bookstore in North America and around the world. This is Spaced Out Radio. You know, we've been doing this for how long now?
Oh,
5
my
years?
goodness. 5 years, I think. I was
5
going to say
years, 6
5
years?
years.
5
Let's
years,
think
6
of
years.
it.
I still love every time you talk about a story.
Oh, thank you, Dave. You'll never
If
be bored with
Aspen,
me.
welcome to our chat. Yeah, I still love it. Absolutely love it.
Oh, we're going to get to tell stories in person in April.
Yes, at
We have
Nebraska
all
Bake
night,
Sale
freak each
Contest.
other out. It's going to be so fun.
Yes, I was talking to Robin the other night. I'm like, I guess you got to get moving on this a little bit because she's always late with our tickets, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully that when she flies you into Dallas, hopefully we're on the same plane
To
going in.
Nebraska. That would be super fun.
Yeah, that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
And hopefully there's no tornadoes.
Right. Well, I just survived the, big Sierra snowstorm.
Yeah, you just survived snowpocalypse.
Yeah. I mean, it was nothing compared to like when I was a kid and lived there. We would have snowpocalypses like constantly, but it had been a long time for me and also for the county in general. And yeah, it just got in the way of all my plans. What can you do?
Right?
You just hunker down with some
Just hunker down.
alcohol and some cribbage,
I remember my first time in Nebraska. We were at this sports bar afterwards, and I go to the bathroom, and there's like these tornado safety zone signs on the doors,
Yeah.
and I'd never seen them before.
Yeah.
So I walked up to the waitress, and I'm like, I don't mean to be rude here because I'm not from here, but what do those tornado signs mean on the door? She goes, well, if there's a tornado and the siren goes off, everybody rushes to the bathroom because it's the safest, most steady place, and it's in the middle of the building.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not know this.
I did not know this either. And when I moved to the Midwest, the very first summer I was here, there was a freaking tornado siren went off. And I was like, I don't understand what. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Now, I know what to do in an earthquake, right? Like you grew up in the West Coast and you know what to do. I grew up in San Francisco. You know what to do in an earthquake. But like a tornado siren, had no idea. But then I learned, you're just supposed to go to the lowest point, farthest away from the windows. Bathrooms are usually safe because they're kind of contained. And you just wait it out and hope like the house doesn't get ripped off from the top of your head. Where I am, there have been a number of tornadoes, but not to the extent that you like Nebraska or any of those places that are in that area called like Tornado Alley. But I don't really know like what's tornado season. Hopefully not April.
It starts in April in Nebraska.
Okay, that's all right.
Like the first time I went down there,
Do it. We'll be all right.
My flight got turned around back to Dallas.
That's right. That's right. It was like it took you a really long time to get there.
Yeah, about 27 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Benno, how are you, buddy? Yeah, it was interesting. So hopefully we're on the same flight coming out of Dallas. And that way we can hang out and then go to Taco Bell once we land.
I imagine there's only so many flights to that small town. I mean, it's a pretty small town in Nebraska.
All of them come out of Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah. So
no matter what, we'll both be going out of Dallas. But I'll see if I can arrange with with Robin to see if we're on the same
People can
flight.
get on the same flight.
That would be
That'd be
kind of
fun.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
That
That'd be
would,
hilarious. That'd be great.
yeah, man.
Get more time together. It'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's where I got my Texas hat is at the Dallas airport. Yep. Got it there.
Yep.
I came up from
Idle time in an airport leads to spending.
right.
So,
All right.
you know, you're buying $20 drinks and
Right.
making friends with everyone.
All right. We have one super chatter tonight. It's Little Cam. Thank you very much. Why are you coming out of Dallas from Canada? Because Vancouver to Dallas, Dallas to Grand Island.
We
That's
don't
where you
know
go.
why. We
Here we
just,
go.
it's just.
Here we go in the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get going right off the bat here. Varla Ventura is here, and we're talking about the darker side of fairy tales. We only have Varla until the top of the hour. Her website, varlaventura.net. You can find her books on any major bookstore around North America. And if they don't have it, tell them to bring it in. That's what I would do. Just do
That's
that.
right. Everything's in print.
All right. Let us get to one of the scariest stories, which really means in old translation, starvation horror, Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel. Yeah. That's a dark, dark story. It starts out dark and then it gets darker and then it ends like crazy dark. So, first of all, you've got two kids who are brought into the woods because their family can't feed them. And, you know, in some versions, it's like the stepmother is like, just get rid of these kids and then we'll have enough bread for the two of us kind of deal. But it's speaking to a time of like extreme poverty. And, you know, that was not uncommon. I mean, that happened in the United States during the Dust Bowl era. If you couldn't, like, people were so poor, it was the Great Depression, and they would leave their children at like boys' homes and things like that because they had no way to take care of them. They couldn't feed them. And at least that way they knew that they were going to be fed. And then of course, sometimes they didn't come back for them. So very sad. But so it starts out with this situation in which this little brother and sister are kind of being tricked by their father to be led into the woods so that they won't come back because they can't afford to feed them. So that is just a really, you know, dark setting. And then you have them, the kids trying to kind of outsmart the adults by, it's like they know what he's doing, which makes it even more tragic in a way because they're aware that their father is trying to get rid of them, but they kind of outsmart him by finding a pathway back in, you know, the breadcrumbs and all of that. And then these kids get into the forest and they find this witch's house, and the witch it's the candy house, right? It's basically this completely enchanted house. It's whatever the children want, really. Whatever the children desire. Well, what is a kid going to desire more than anything after being starving, wandering through the woods? Candy and sweets and, you know, delicious treats and endless things to eat. And so this house is enchanted so that the children approach the witch's house. This is a recurring theme with witches in fairy tales. It happens in Rapunzel. It happens in Hansel and Gretel. And it's sort of this ambiguous, like, here's this beautiful house, or here's this really tempting garden. And then some unsuspecting fool comes along and like nibbles on it or takes from it. And it's a witch's garden and it's enchanted. But the question really is, did the witch do that purposely, or didn't the witch know that was going to happen all along? And that's how they kind of work their magic. But nonetheless, this house is completely enchanted, and the children start to devour it. And then it gets worse, right? Then she keeps the children, sort of puts the boy into a cage, makes the girl into her scullery maid, and essentially ventures into the idea of cannibalism, right? So that's kind of the crux, is that this witch is going to eat them. It is also very similar to some of the stories of Baba Yaga, which is the sort of, the Slavic or the Russian version
Yes.
of the witch that lives in the woods. She's got a house that can run away on chicken legs, and she's able to enchant people to come to the house. Either they're looking for help from her, or they've lost their way. Usually they're seeking something from the witch, and it's up to the witch whether she decides to harm them or not. And then, of course, in Hansel and Gretel, the witch is going to eat the little boy. And in the end, they end up shoving the witch into the oven, which is horrific, right? So then this old lady gets burned alive in this oven. So it's just dark moment after dark moment after dark moment. In some versions, the dad shows up at the very end and reunites with the children, but not in all versions. So it just sort of spirals. It's the threat of killing the children, the threat of the starving children, abandoning the children, eating the children, and ultimately the children survive, which is great, but it's definitely this really particularly disturbing tale. And, the witch could represent a lot of things. Witches get a bad rap, in my opinion, but in this case, the witch was pretty awful.
No kidding. No kidding. It is kind of scary to think about. Here she is, we look at this where it's all about candy. We look at them getting away, but in reality, they don't really get away. It's just kind of, right there. So in the original version from medieval European famine, apparently like you said, the parents abandoned the children.
Mhm.
Then they entertained cannibalistic witches to try, or the witch cannibalistic plan to eat them. Gretel then burns the witch alive in an oven.
Mhm.
Survival through cleverness during desperate times is the moral of the story. Now, you mentioned the Little Mermaid being very dark, because we look at Ariel as, I'm going to be honest, I was 17 when the Little Mermaid came out, and that was my first cartoon crush until Jessica Rabbit came along. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's a take away the Disney side. This is a dark story.
It's a very dark story. Yeah, it's a very dark story. First of all, there's there's several several mermaids who have their father is the king, Neptune or Triton, however you want to call him. And there's one that is sort of, she's a little bit of the black sheep. She's not contented with her beautiful underwater garden and doing all of the things that her sisters like to do. She's constantly going up to shore. She's constantly kind of having this wanderlust to see what it's like on the other side. And so she basically makes this bargain. I mean, the Disney version follows a lot of this, but she makes this bargain that the sea witch will give her legs upon which to walk, but the mermaid has to give up her voice. And so she makes this bargain, gives up her voice. But what they don't tell her is that when she's walking, it's not going to be just like a regular human walking. It's incredibly painful. She has these really tender feet. And I believe there's a line in the Hans Christian Andersen that says every step was like daggers in her feet. And so by the time she gets from the ocean's edge, all the way up to the castle, her feet are completely bleeding and shredded. It's very, very gruesome. And then she has to kind of make this ultimate, like she has like 3 days or something. She has to make this choice of whether or not she's going to go back into the water or she's going to stay on land. Doesn't have her voice. And there's a bunch of like really small, gruesome things that happen in the castle, the way that people reject her, there's a bunch of like cannibalistic mermaid stuff, and I don't know if there's any in that Hans Christian Andersen version, but I've read quite a few mermaid tales where there's some element of the mermaids eating each other in like an animalistic way when they are being punished or they've done the wrong thing. So that's kind of disturbing too. But there's no, there's no calypso music. It's actually Hans Christian Andersen was Danish. So the story actually takes place off the shore of Denmark, and it's based on mermaid legends from the area. And he sort of took his liberties with it as well. But yeah, it's really brutal, and it's about a like deep sacrifice that somebody has to make. In the Disney version, she's making it to be with the prince, but in the real version, she's making it for herself. And I think that's probably the ultimate, if you get a moral in there, is like, sometimes you have to do hard things to do the thing that you really want to do, right? So that's kind of do the hard work and you'll get rewarded in the end, because ultimately she is rewarded and her voice is restored because of that, because she makes the right choices. But no word on, how her feet are. That haunted me as a child. That description
Really?
of her feet turning bloody when she walked on the sand. That just I never forgot that. I never forgot it, and I never purged that demon from my mind until I wrote a whole book about mermaids, and then I could finally kind of feel comfortable with that scene.
That would do it. That would do it right there. Another one that's kind of creepy that we really don't get into much is the Pied Piper. It's not about running mice and rats out of town. It's about mass disappearance of children.
Yeah, it's the children. It's really disturbing. And I wonder if that's another one that kind of came out of that great famine, where it was like along came this, character that the children would follow, and then the parents wouldn't have to worry about them anymore. They wouldn't have to feed them. They wouldn't have to worry if they were going to survive or not. Also, it could be sort of it was so common for children to die of, all the children would die of some kind of massive influenza or some kind of disease. And so I've contemplated if he's more of like a trickster death kind of character, kind of tricking everyone, playing this music and sort of sweeping all the children off, kind of representing some kind of massive disease or something like that.
Well, there are theories to this. Okay, whether it was the migration of the plague going on or the child crusades that led to a mass death event of children, or it's a folkloric warning about broken promises.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, so
That's
allegedly the moral is when society breaks its word, the future, in brackets, children, is lost.
Oh my. We're experiencing that right now, aren't we?
All over the world.
Yeah. Always interesting to kind of look at these old stories in a modern context as well and think. I love to think about the times and the, what was going on also historically. I think that's very helpful if you're reading old stories, to have that context of there was a huge earthquake then, or a volcano erupted, or there was a plague. It helps you kind of read between the lines also of what's going on. And then you can see how, if you were really, really super nerdy and you wanted to do it, you could like look at all of the different versions of one tale and compare them on a historical timeline and see how certain, the tune changes a little bit until you get to like the 1950s and everything's like, yada, da, 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 colorful and happy and nuclear,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is kind of one of the freaky ones. Let's go to another one here, because I don't think a lot of people, you mentioned the name earlier, but I do want to get to Baba Yaga. Most people will recognize the name Baba Yaga because, it came up in what's the movie? I just watched it the other day with Keanu Reeves. He was the one you sent to kill Baba Yaga.
I don't know.
Yeah. Why am I blanking on this?
Well, Baba Yaga is the witch in the woods. She's the ultimate witch in the woods. She lives in this craggy little house. It's often displayed as being on chicken feet because it can get up and run away so that you can never catch her. And the most famous Baba Yaga story is the story of Vasilisa. And Vasilisa is this little girl who is sent into the woods to get something. I can't remember. She's delivering bread or something like that. They're always sending little girls on these tasks where they have to deliver food to grandma or whatever. So they send this little girl out, and she talks to the trees, and the trees give her advice. It's a beautiful story. Trees give her advice, and they tell her to tie this certain ribbon and then go this certain way. And this is how you can kind of outsmart Baba Yaga so that you can get past her and ask her for what you want or whatever, or just get past her and deliver the loaf of bread. But there's a lot of stories with this kind of Baba Yaga like character. She has a house made of bones. It's like her entire house is made of bones, and it stands on chicken legs. So she represents she represents death, and she represents the like darkest nature of anyone, and the deep darkness of the woods, of which there is much death. You go back. I mean, even today, you get lost in the woods in the winter, and in cold temperatures, and this death is all around you in the forest, especially in the wintertime, especially in like cold northern climates, right? So yeah, she's a fascinating character because sometimes she's also depicted as this like somewhat innocent-ish kitchen witch type lady that is also full of wisdom. But the thing is you can get something from her if you're willing to bargain. If you are just going to ask something of her, she'll just eat you alive. She'll just throw you in her pot and cook you. So
nice lady.
Yeah, I mean, as they do. Sometimes witches just need to chuck you in the pot and cook you up. It's the only solution.
Yeah, when in doubt.
What some people deserve.
When in doubt. All right. How about the legend?
We're gonna need a bigger cauldron.
Are you familiar with the one of the legend of Bluebeard?
Bluebeard the pirate?
Yeah.
But of course. Yeah, Bluebeard the pirate. I'm trying to remember what book that was in. Because I remember reading it as a child. It might have even been in a Hans Christian Andersen. Don't remember a ton of the details, but I do remember it being this pirate adventure story. And that's...
Well, let me give you the gory details.
Yeah, give me the gory details.
It's apparently Bluebeard is a serial killer husband.
Ooh, my favorite type of husband.
Yeah. So a wealthy man forbids his wife from opening one room. Inside, she finds the murdered bodies
That's right.
of his previous wives.
Yes. Bluebeard, yes. There is actually a Japanese version of this story, very similar. It's called The Goblin of Achidari. And a man who's, I don't know, he's like a priest or something. He's walking along a road and it gets totally cold and dark at night and he can't make it to his destination. So he sees a light, of course, like a light in a cabin through the woods. And he follows the light and he gets there and there's an old woman there. And the old woman says, I guess you can come in, but stay here. I'm going to go get fire for the hearth. And whatever you do not open that door. The same thing happens in the Bluebeard. He says, whatever you do not open that door. So of course, the witch leaves, or Bluebeard leaves. And what do? You're sitting there. It's like, obviously you're going to open the door. And when the guy opens the door, he sees all of these skeletons and skulls and human flesh. And he runs just in time before the goblin comes back in this Japanese version. And he escapes, but like just barely because he, got out of there just in time. But the same kind of thing that I forgot about that Bluebeard story where, she opens the door and there's just like dead bodies in there, like
Totally
dead bodies galore.
Totally.
Whatever you do, anytime someone says that to you, obviously the very first thing you're going to do is open the door as soon as they leave. Like, I'm sorry. If you don't want me to open the door, don't point it out.
And probably the final one we will do, because we only got about 3 minutes left with you, is Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty. Yes. That's deeply disturbing one. I'll try and do the FCC compatible version of this so we don't get any fines. So one of the greatest images actually is in the Grimm brothers version of Sleeping Beauty when they describe after Sleeping Beauty has been put to sleep by this curse. They describe the way that the brambles have grown up around the castle. And the brambles are so thick that there's corpses of all of the men and their horses who have tried to get through to find out what's going on in the middle of this like legendary castle. There's also, I included Sleeping Beauty in my chapter about henbane because there's speculation that henbane would have been the poison that would have been on the tip of the spindle. Another, whatever you do, don't touch this thing, right? Tip on the spindle that then got entered into her bloodstream. There's a very, very gruesome version in which this henbane seed actually gets lodged beneath her fingernail. She falls into this stupor. One man makes it through after, I don't know how many years, he makes it through all the brambles and he sees again this woman in a coma, essentially, and falls in love with her, sleeps with her multiple times, gets her pregnant. She gives birth. She's still in a coma this whole time. And the baby suckles her finger and pulls out the henbane seed and she wakes up. So that's pretty much like the most gruesome version of that story I've ever heard. And I gave you the censored version of it. So when true love's kiss,
Right?
I mean, something happened. Anyway, it was non-consensual, let's just say. So it's kind of a wild, dark story. Yeah.
Well, let's also not forget that the king's wife tries to cook and eat the children as well.
Oh, there's also that. Yes. And of course, well, Sleeping Beauty, in Snow White, there's also the queen sends out the huntsman to chop out her heart, and she says, "Bring it back to me so I know she's dead." I mean, it's some pretty brutal extremes. But you also, you had people like Vlad the Impaler who were, taking over villages and putting people's heads on pikes. And it was medieval times. And these stories were kind of coming at the tail end of those medieval times, retelling some of those really kind of romanticized, but also very gruesome stories that took place during that period in history.
And on that note, Varla Ventura, we have to say
Oh,
goodbye to you
I'm
for
sorry to
this
say
month.
goodbye.
I know it was way too quick. I didn't like it. It was way. I mean, I loved it, but I didn't
Oh,
like it.
okay. No, I know what you mean. I know.
All
I
right.
know. Thank you so much for having me and accommodating my
We'll talk to you
ridiculous
next month, my
needs.
friend.
Yeah, I do.
VarlaVentura.net is her website. You can find all of her books at any major bookstore or on her website as well, VarlaVentura.net. Coming up next, the mustached Grant Baker is here for UFO Max. Coming on up. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. Thank you, Verla.
Dave, what do you do when you're at the Bigfoot conference with your show?
I put it on. I take a night off,
Okay.
or I'll get Grant. Grant's going to be
Okay.
there.
I was just thinking it'd be fun if we did a little like,
We could do something there.
yeah, do a
We'll
little
figure
live
it out.
stream or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a live stream or something. We can figure
Before
that
we're
out.
too drunk. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
All right, my dear. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. All right. Good night, Dave. I'll talk
All
to you
right,
soon.
good night. Varla Ventura, everybody. Love her. Love her lots. And I'll be right back, guys. Let's get back in the hot seat. Let's bring in the Maximus one. Here he is. What's happening, buddy?
Just having fun watching movies.
Oh, beautiful. You look comfy.
Oh, I have to be right now. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I haven't moved from this couch in a month.
Yeah, that sucks, dude. How's your leg?
It's all right, man. After the surgery, it was, you just stupid things happen. I couldn't see where I was walking, and I got a steep driveway, slipped on ice, and destroyed every ligament in the ankle. And so I had to have surgery on that, obviously, and then broke my fibula, which, funny enough, you don't really need your fibula, I found out. It doesn't even hurt, even though I broke it. Odd, but everything's healing up fine. Every week I got to go to the doctor. Hey, let's move your foot more to 90 degrees. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
You know how it is.
right. Sleepy, how you doing? Good to have you here. Yeah, maybe we'll stream when we go to Taco Bell. Yeah, that looks better, Grant. We're coming back here in 5 seconds, everybody. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Telauteropathy. Telauteropathy is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Hour number 2, normally we would be with Varla, but she had to get going. So from our YouTube channel, UFO Max, Grantavius Max, otherwise known as Grant Baker, is here with us. And if you're watching on YouTube, he's lounging around, probably has a sip of brandy going on somewhere. No, but seriously, Grant, a lot of people have asked me, where have you been? Why haven't you been around on SOR lately? And it's because not only did you and your lovely wife have a beautiful baby boy named Finn,
Yep.
but shortly after that, you decided to try and skate on black ice without any blades. You fell, you tore up your ankle, you broke your fibula in your leg, and you had to have surgery. And now you're lounging around getting a fat butt like mine on your couch.
I appreciate it so much. Yeah, no, a few months ago, it was very interesting. We decided that Finn should come into the world, and well, he decided. Beautiful baby boy, has all 10 fingers, all 10 toes, and he is, he's a wet baby. So any mom out there that knows what I'm talking about, very wet baby, lots of laundry, but beautiful blue eyes, better looking than me, of course. Took after his mother, thank God. And but yeah, no. So my wife took 3 months off for maternity leave, and then the price of infant daycare. That stuff's expensive. So I decided I was going to take 3 months off for paternity leave. My very first night, I decided to slip on black ice in my driveway and do exactly what you just said. So here I am lounging around on the couch, and yeah, I'm not actually getting any bigger, unfortunately, though. I'm losing weight somehow. I have no idea why.
Oh, I wish I had those problems. I look at food, man, and I gain weight. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, I'm
terrible.
here alone with a baby. The baby takes precedence, and I get a couple crackers every now and then.
Well, that would be why. Are you able to walk, though?
No, not at all. I have been on this couch. I have a walker, 2 wheelchairs, and I just ordered myself a very nice cane from Ukraine. There's a gentleman there that makes them. He hand makes these canes, so I had to spend a little extra to have him custom make me one, and I'll show you that later. But the prognosis, or the what happened to me, is called a high ankle sprain, and it was very severe in my case, where I did have 100% have to go through surgery. I have tight ropes going through both bones. They had to just make sure they get stuck back together, and a whole bunch of stuff happened down there. And it's 12 weeks for me to be able to even be upright again. So I've either been in a wheelchair. I have a walker because they don't actually trust crutches. After that, I'm going to need assistant walking, which is why I bought a cool cane, because I just don't want one of those, the metal ones from Walmart. And after that, I asked him if I was going to be able to ride my motorcycle this summer, and they're still kind of up in the air on it, unfortunately.
And well, with SOR, you are going to be taking over as of next week on the UFO report. Josh Rutledge, who has some health and family matters to take care of, he is going to be stepping aside. So I got to create you some nice new music for that. I do. And I will. I promise you, I will. But you look at it with open eyes, and everything that's going on in the UFO world right now, especially in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. This is actually crazy right now. Grant, I know you're a big fan of this subject.
Oh, very much so. Ever since, so let's just backtrack a little bit. A few weeks ago, Obama was on a podcast and was asked, and this is, now you got to understand, you got to put it in context. This is one of those speed rounds where you ask him a question, he just answers it, you keep going on to the next question. And so he was asked, about UFOs and aliens. And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, well, they're real. And then, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being held at Area 51. And he stammered a little bit and had to be reminded what Area 51 was, even though he's the one that actually got it to be, undisclosed. Then you go from that to another, which blew up hugely over the internet. It's now viral, where President Trump here in the United States was asked by a reporter why he's sitting in the doorway of a plane and saying, hey, this is what Obama did. Oh, well, he shouldn't have said that. That's national secrets. That's top secret. He shouldn't have said that. He can get in trouble for that. But I don't know anything about this. And everybody in the United States is looking at you going, what are you doing? You just gave it away. So then he comes out, within hours later and says, oh, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and let all this go. What really was interesting is if anybody can do this. You can go on TikTok, Facebook, wherever your favorite social media is, including YouTube, which is where I like to spend most of my time, Instagram, Reddit, wherever. And the influx of how many people, civilians all around the world, who are taking their cell phones out and taking video of all these crazy phenomena that are in the sky for longer than a second. And these things aren't blinking. These things look like fire in the sky and crazy colors, and they're not really moving that fast. And it is soared. So what do you think about that?
I want to go back a little bit to something that you said.
Yeah.
Okay. The way Obama said what he said, well, I know they're real. Okay. When Trump was asked that question by journalist Peter Doocy of Fox News, this would have gone nowhere if he would have just said, no, I didn't hear it, and I'm sure he was joking around. That would have been it. It would have been done. Nobody would be talking about anything. And it makes me wonder, as I've had a few days to process this, okay, it makes me wonder what this setup is. I don't think it's because of the Epstein files. I don't think it's because of Russia, Ukraine, or Iran, or anything else that is going on right now. Okay, what I do think it is it is something that he is covering. And it might be one of those that I just said, because those are the hot button topics of the day, especially the Epstein files. Okay, but it was just weird because you would expect him just to sweep it under the rug, and he didn't. He attacked on it.
How many in your recollection? And I can count three right off the top. In fact, I can count about 5 or 6 right now, including Knapp and Ross, Coldheart. The list goes on, where these people within the last 2 years actually have said, if the president of the United States comes out with the capital D disclosure, then that's going to be the one president that's forever set in history. Everybody will be talking about that person. So yeah, we have the Epstein files, and as crazy as all that's coming out to be right now, then he comes out right on top of that. What are they trying to hide? A lot of people are going with the Epstein files. Could it be something bigger? Could it be something different off to the side? You already have two things right now that are completely flooding the media. Any social media site you go to, my algorithms, and I'm not even watching half of this stuff, and it's just flooded with it. Could it be that he's hiding something? Maybe. But at the same time, when you have one president, which is Obama, disclose it on a podcast and on an interview,
But
and then
did
you
he
have
really expose it?
that is a very good question. He said he's never seen one. I think there's many presidents that have tried to say something to that nature. I think this is the first one that says, "Oh yeah, they're real." Just the way he said it, the blasé way he said it, it was just so natural. That did he disclose, "Hey, this is what they look like, and this is what their ships look like"? No, not a chance. But the fact, and of course, everybody knows they're real. I mean, we have the Senate and the House of Representatives talking about it. We have David Grush going out there saying, "Hey, this is what we got." We have George Knapp going out there, or Commander David Fravor going out there over the last couple of years, where we're sitting here watching this. It's not a question if they're real. Now it's a question of, okay, why are they here? What are they doing? What are we hiding? What is the United States hiding? What is the objective of all this? And you got to understand, the United States had, like, let's go to something stupid like the U-2 bomber or the SR-71 Blackbird. Those things were made decades before they were ever undisclosed, to where they're like, "Oh yeah, this is what it is. This is what we got." So if they're disclosing this now, you can only imagine what more there is in the future, or what we really know. So him saying, "Oh yeah, aliens are real. I've never seen one." Well, then you have Trump saying, "Oh, I'm going to go ahead and disclose all this. Let's go for it." It's a fun time to be alive.
Oh, I agree. It's an absolutely fun time to be alive with this. I mean, how could we not be having fun with it? I do think though that this peeing contest between Obama and Trump is what brought it on. I always believe that, because there was no reason for him to do this otherwise than just try and embarrass Obama, saying, well, maybe if I disclose, I'll save him from prosecution. So there was that cheap shot that was given in regards to it, because there is no love lost between those two. But I mean, it is just absolutely amazing how this story is going haywire, and in all facets, like everything is breaking all at once.
It is. And, you know, the pitching contest that you talk about is real. And the thing about Obama is, though, he's very calculated. And he always has been. He was a slick talking dude. I actually love the way he talks. I'm not biased one way or the other. I don't get into politics or anything like that. But I always admired the way that Obama really handled most situations. And I kind of get a kick out of Trump does his thing too, because he's more of a showman, and that's just who he is. And I watch it and I take it all with a grain of salt. But realistically, when you have an old, he's no longer, he's a retired sitting president, literally just come out and say, yeah, oh, they're real. Like, you can't really take that with a grain of salt anymore. I've never ever thought that Obama was going to sit there and falsify any kind of information. He just doesn't seem the character. In fact, I think it's him and his wife. Aren't they the ones that started a radio, not a radio show, a movie
Podcast
picture, a
and
podcast? Go ahead.
yeah, and then And then they also did a documentary on Betty and Barney Hill.
That's it. That's it. And so the interest with them, and that's why I really paid attention to Obama when he said this, because the interest he already has the paper trail. And whereas you get, President Trump, who is currently sitting as our president, who went on Joe Rogan before he got elected, and Rogan brought up the fact that, hey, what do you think about? Oh, oh yeah, no, I don't know. It's very interesting, but I don't know nothing about it. Then you get his stinking son, who's also on a podcast, who's bringing it up. It's like, okay, guys, come on. Like, who's gonna spill the beans here? And realistically, if you look at the big picture of things, most people in the world now are desensitized to aliens and everything else. The current situation is everybody's looking at the Epstein files and the alien phenomena, the things that we're seeing all the way from 2017 to now. In fact, Commander David Faber and everybody else has seen this stuff and all these videos. And we're all so desensitized to it that it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, aliens are real. We already knew that. So what about these files? And then, but here I am going, oh, wait, what? You just said what? And of course, I get stuck in that aspect of it. And it's real fun, especially when you start just going out there and all you got to type in is UFO or something in the skies. And the flooding of everybody's personal cameras and cell phones and everything that we have, they're actually pretty good definition with all these new technologies that we're getting out. We're actually getting really good views, not the balloon one that looks really crazy, that looks like AI, and everybody's starting to debunk that one. But there's a lot of interesting stuff in the skies now since this happened. And I'm kind of trying to figure out why. Is it a timing thing? Did Trump come out with this because they're no longer able to contain it? And he wanted to just make sure that he said something before this all happens? Or is it really a cover up for something bigger?
That's a good point. And the reality is we really don't know. We really don't know what this is all about. Why now? That's the question I've been asking since the To the Stars Academy came out. Why now? Is there something coming? Because, I don't know if you've heard these reports or not, but there are reports out there that in 2027, there's supposed to be this giant mothership that makes an appearance. And it could come past Earth. It could settle in our atmosphere, or it just might do a flyby like an Oumuamua or,
Three-Eye Atlas.
Three-Eye Atlas. We don't know. And apparently there are people who believe, including Lou Elizondo, that this is the big reason why we need to be talking about this subject at this point.
Absolutely. So Lou Elizondo was in that new movie, Age of Disclosure. And he even talked about it then. And in previous interviews before, too, where he said that 2027 was a big deal. In fact, there's other people, including Ross Coulthart, who has been interviewed gobs of times, where he says, my sources say that this is a date or this is a time period this year is a time to remember. Something is going to happen at this time. And then you have, a lot of people that have been in this for years, decades even, that look at, what is it? DARPA, I think is the name of the thing, where we're having this huge influx of invading aliens down to the earth, and we're able to somehow make this a projection in the sky where it's all just fake. But realistically, something's going on. It's building up very quickly. We had a lull after Grush came out, and where everything like kind of ramped up, and then it had a little bit of a cool off period. And then all of a sudden we got a huge spike. We're through the roof at the moment. It is a time where I think we need to slow down a little bit, do a little bit more homework, watch people's videos, because if somebody gets a video of an aircraft on, let's say, my iPhone that I'm talking to you on right now, I have timestamps. There's actually signature cues in video and pictures that if I send it to somebody, you were able to open it up and say, okay, this is unedited information. And so if we can have some type of, there's actually an app, I think, right now that you can go out and send all this stuff to. I don't know if they actually go so in depth where they are able to look into those signature stamps, watermarks, so to speak, and then say, hey, this is actually a real recorded video on this iPhone 17 Pro Max. And, let's look into this. the problem is we have thousands all of a sudden. That app, which I just looked at, and I can't remember the name of it, but I know the picture of it, is on my phone right now, and it is literally growing exponentially every day. And so it's a phenomenon right now that I'm very interested to see where it's going. I don't know if we're going to have a fake alien invasion, but I don't know if Three Eye Atlas, which is still on its way out of our solar system, did drop something off on Jupiter or wherever, and now that's going to be making its way here, or all these other weird spacecraft, and I did that in air quotes, that all these comets that were coming in during the time of Three Eye Atlas, where people like Avi Loeb were like, holy moly, man, what is going on here? You have this one object that is coming through our solar system at a very weird angle in our plane because it's coming at like just a few degrees off of our plane, which meets the most planets but stays away from Earth just enough to keep us from seeing exactly what it's doing, and it's doing everything we thought it wouldn't do. And then you have all these other comets or meteors and stuff that are coming in showing different colors and everything. It's a weird time. There's a lot of weird stuff out there in space. NASA doesn't know what to do. You have Elon Musk with his SpaceX, who's kind of hush hushing the whole situation because he thinks they're being really subtle. And then you have everybody on Earth that's looking at this going, this isn't so subtle. And then now all of a sudden you have two presidents, an old sitting president and a current, saying the same thing and releasing documents. So I
Is,
really go ahead.
let me ask you this. Is politics ruining this subject?
It can. It just depends on your way of looking at things. If you're focused on politics, that's all you're going to see. It's an individualized, I think, stance in my opinion. So I'm focused on obviously UFOs, aliens, USOs, whatever you want to call it. I like UFOs. I don't like UAP or whatever the heck they got now. You're talking to a guy that had an experience when he was 5. So it's not a matter that, oh, do you think they're real? I know they're real. I seen one with my eyes, and it scared the living daylights out of me because I had no reference of what this thing might be until I was much older when I realized it. So it's not a matter of if they're real. They are. What they are, who they are, where they're from, what they're doing here, that's my questions. I don't try to mix politics when it comes to this field. I do understand why President Trump would try to bring this up. It's kind of a stepping stone. It's like, hey, look at me. I did not watch the State of the Union address for good reason, but that's my own personal opinion. And it's one of those deals where when you have somebody that's in my mind, the sitting president, a lot of people are watching him. I'm just going to take what I want from what he says, and I'm going to leave the rest. Can it be ruined? Absolutely. You had old presidents saying, in fact, you used to have your intro where, what's his face? I just blanked
Reagan.
out. Reagan. I sometimes wish, or I sometimes wonder if the world would come together under, an alien threat from outside our world or whatever. And that's a real thing. You put that kind of fear in somebody, including the whole populace of this globe, then you're going to have a unionization of everybody. Everybody's going to be on the same team at that point because now we're all going through it together. And that could be very strong politically.
It could
But
be.
dude, I just don't want people to think that should be some kind of power over everybody else. Because if you're a president or you're me sitting on a couch with a broken leg, we all bleed the same color, folks. We're all the same person, and we're all going to deal with it the exact same way.
We have about 25, 30 seconds before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Grant Baker, Grantavius Max from UFO Max on our YouTube channel, is our guest tonight. And we're going to get more into this. Is the political side ruining ufology? They've taken it over. The story has come out. Do we think we're going to get something, or do we think that it is going to be something that is just far, far from reality in finding out the truth of what is being hidden? I don't know. I don't believe we're going to get any aliens. I really don't. But I don't like the way the subject is going either. Bring back regular ufology. That's the goal.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
That was fun.
That is fun. A big shout out in our chat room tonight to Swamp Dweller, our good friend Swampy, hanging on out. Been a while, my friend. So glad to see you. Got me all excited, man. Haven't seen you around these parts in a while. So it is absolutely great. And audience response to the top of the third hour when we play Swamp Dweller, it's pretty amazing, my friend. We love you. And thank you for joining us here. Appreciate you. Yeah, Swampy, I will be let me find out here. Let's go over to March. Swampy wants to come in March. Swampy, I got Thursday the 5th, Monday the 9th, the 16th, the 17th. 5, 9, 16, 17. If you're listening, I'll type it in there. Or 16, 17, not 15.
I'll tell you what, the lag between actually being on the show and watching it on my TV is about 40 seconds.
Really?
Oh, yeah, easily. And I'm wired right into the internet. We need 15 more thumbs up. 15 more. See, that just popped up on my TV. That's the way I can see everybody's comments.
There you go.
Dude, it's so good to be back. Like, I have been just dying to come back this whole time. Oh, the unfortunate thing is that I had the Spectrum come out and move all my internet stuff downstairs and then put a wire coming from downstairs up here so I could run the TV and PlayStation off of that. And my whole computer set up and everything. I got a whole brand new, just like you're doing, brand new station downstairs. So that way the whole house can't hear me. And that way I can go down. But dude, getting downstairs takes me like 10 minutes.
Man.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's crazy. Just crazy.
Yeah, it happens. I'll be okay in a few weeks, you know. Once I start walking, I'll send you some pictures. I'm really upset that I can't ride a motorcycle right now.
I hear you. I'm really bothered that I can't get to my my Bigfoot spot just yet.
Oh, I bet the snow is horrific up there. We haven't gotten any snow this year. It sucks. I was hoping for at least 2 feet, but nothing. Just irritates me.
All right. We just booked Swampy for next Thursday.
Hey, thank you, J Truth Seeker. Spectrum is worse than Bigfoot Mission Rob's internet. I love it. Oh gosh, he does have pretty crappy internet. I'll be honest with you. I've only seen him like twice in the last 6 months, and it's spotty.
One minute to go here, brother.
I'll mute. Oh, 1 minute. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you tonight to Swamp Dweller times 2, JSCO, Benno, Area 54 at Little Cam. Coming up on the super chats. We appreciate that. Freaking awesome. And I'm going to be doing. Very cool. Very cool. Caribou Con coming up September 18th through 20th. We're going to drag Grant's ass up here for it. You got to come up, buddy. You got to come up for it.
Yep. Just got to sneak me up there. Put me in a suitcase.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I forgot. You're a bad boy. Here we go, buddy. We are into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott from UFO Max on our YouTube channel. We have Grant Baker. We call him Grantavius Max around here. But he's actually Grantavius Minimum right now because usually he has a great mustache. And unfortunately, it's not there right now. It's just not there. Very disappointing. Very disappointing. Let's get right to it. Politics and UFOs. You know, the one thing that I strive for on this show, Grant, is I hate talking politics. And I'll tell you why. Being a former radio journalist in Vancouver, I loved politics. I love politics. Like, I feed off of politics, right? I'm one of those people. And it's very hard for me to keep politics away from this show because when I see something stupid happening on my side of the border or your side of the border or somewhere around, I really want to go off, you know, because I know people are listening and maybe, just maybe, I can, you know, talk some common sense here. All right. But on this show, with what we do, the only time we do talk politics is when we are talking UFOs, a subject that you love, a subject that I love, and we think it could be part of the biggest cover-up in humanity, in our history. So knowing that you believe, I believe, many people believe that there is this major UFO cover-up coming on and been going on for decades, there is these sanctions about talking about this subject. We have to look at it like they've kept the secret for so long. Why do we think just because it's become a popular topic that all of a sudden they're going to say, oh, okay, sorry, we're bad. Let's tell you what happened at Roswell. Let's tell you what happened at Holloman Air Force Base. Let's tell you what happened at Kingman. Let's tell you about all of these places where events have happened. Your thoughts?
So there's a lot of places that events have happened, just like you said. But let's look at the bare minimum of this. A lot of people are like Roswell. They're focused on the incident itself, not the takeaway. We can't see the takeaway because the government comes in, takes it away. Oh, I heard one time, and it's actually changed a lot of my frame of mind when it comes to looking at the UFOs and aircraft that these beings or people or whatever it is that are flying around in our skies or under our waters or in space. And we're so hyper focused on these craft. Oh, the Roswell craft, it crashed. There's actually two that crashed there, by the way. Anyways, there's all these incidents, the Tic Tac, the Go Fast, the Gimbal, you know, all these recent ones that everybody is seeing, all these USOs that are going at Mach 10. I'm just kidding on that speed, by the way. It's you know, well over a couple hundred miles an hour under the water. They're called fast walkers, and we're focused on those. Now, if I was part of the DoD or the military industrial complex here in the United States, and I was, let's say I was high level, and I'm looking at these objects and we find some in their crash, and like, okay, let's find out the technology behind it. Okay, all we have, people, is let's just dumb it down. We only have their vehicles. It's like us going to, I don't know, you know, second century BC, whatever, and saying, okay, you're 2,000 years ago, and you bring a Mercedes-Benz and you're driving around. Somehow you got there, and they catch that, and they're like, "Oh, this is cool," but that's all you have. They have no idea about our computers, the phone I'm talking on, our watches. They have nothing. Okay, so when you look at the bare minimum, all we're seeing is their cars, and that's the minimum of their technology. So if I was the industrial military complex, I'd be like, okay, what else do they have? Not just their weapons, not just their power source. There's more. And I think what we're doing is the United States and all the superpowers, you got Korea with that big UFO that's on the ground that they had to build a building over. I think it's in South Korea or wherever. You have these things, and they're dissecting these things, and they get these beings, and we're hearing all these stories about all these interviews where some might be real, some might not be, and I think what they're doing is they're making us, when it comes to politics, they are trying to guide us. They're trying to guide the narrative and say, this is what you need to focus on. Yes, aliens are real. Cool, we know that. People are real. Chimpanzees are real. Chimpanzees use sticks and other materials like rocks to do things. But we have technology as humans. Well, you have another type of being who may not, or may be humans or whatever. And so you have this separate branch of beings that are highly technological. Their advancements are crazy. We don't know what they're doing. The least of our worries is probably their cars. And so our military is looking into what else do they got? What can we weaponize? What can we do? And so when they're giving us this huge bombshell, hey, look, we got these spacecraft. Hey, look, we have these cars. Then you got to stop and think, okay, just like the SR-71 Blackbird or the U-2 bomber or the spy plane that we had, those things were, secret, top secret for decades before they came out and said anything about them. And then you have like Jim Goodall, who has touched every single one that exists still, all 12 or 13 of them. And they're now in museums. Whereas now we're getting these cool, hey, we got alien spacecraft from 80 years ago that they've been covering this up, or even longer. And then we have, paintings on cave walls that I actually have from a gentleman I just interviewed, which I shouldn't talk about right now, but I have literal pictures he took of paintings of alien and extraterrestrial craft on cave walls in very interesting places, which we will be talking about soon, Dave. And then that this has been happening for millennia. What other type of technology they have? Well, I think that's where our government is trying to cover up. In my mind, we're looking at what we think is the big picture, and the government says, nah, this is just our breadcrumbs.
When you look at the idea that as an American, okay, I'm Canadian, we have nothing. We're not. We're boring. We're boring.
I love you.
I know. That's what makes us so lovable, is we're boring. Right? But as an American, knowing that there are these potential secrets, do you think that more and more of your country folk are starting to realize that maybe in this subject you've been played for a long time?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at so let me phrase this in a way that's not going to make anybody mad. Now, I was born and raised as a United States citizen. During that whole time, there hasn't been a lot coming from our government that gives us a whole lot of foundation and trust, no matter the topic. You just go look at when a new president, or when we're going through our election periods, and look at all the BS, can I say that happens during those times. We just look at it, and then our major cities will vote, and that's usually who becomes the president, because all the little guys, like where I live out in the country, we can put our vote in, and it really just doesn't matter. And so here in the United States, there's certain things they'll do that we're like, okay, cool, you did do what you said. But then most of it, especially when it comes to top secret things like this, there's not a chance, dude. The United States populace as a whole, most of them don't trust the government. And in fact, I think there's polls on that when it comes to things like this, because the DoD is not going to release any information on really high tech, top secret stuff, and we know that. And so we're very aware of it. And I think the United States as a whole, when it comes to the civilians, is when it comes to things like this, is it's like, okay, well, bring it, dude. We're ready for it. But we take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, at least where I live, we always have. We watch the channels, we watch the whatever kind of you get somebody up there doing whatever speech, we'll watch it, we'll listen to it, but we don't take it as gospel.
What do you think is being hidden?
It's a very good question. And I unfortunately wish I knew. I think it's a whole lot bigger than just UFO aircraft. I think it's a whole lot bigger than that. You asked me that question, and I'm going to go completely down the rabbit hole with my, conspiracy theorist, which is interesting because I had a lot of people text me recently being like, dude, you were right. And I just got to laugh because it's a meme on TikTok now. Talk to your local conspiracy theorist and tell them I'm sorry. But I really, unfortunately, I think that the reason why we've been hiding it, or the world has been hiding it, is because they are here. I believe they've been here for a very long time. And, you see certain things. It's something as simple as Google Earth. The one down in, what is it, off of the coast of Southern California, where they had that base underwater, and then they scrubbed it from Google Earth. And if you look at it, you can still kind of halfway see the area where that base underwater would be. There's one out by Cuba. They're all over the place. And you have all these underwater bases. And I actually believe that the best place for them to hide would be underwater. And if they have transmedium vehicles, their cars can go 100 miles an hour, 200-300 miles an hour underwater, and then shoot out of the water and go through our atmosphere at however fast they want, and then go into space and wherever they want. And they got that kind of technology. And what else do they got? And I think when it comes straight down to it, that's what we're after. I think our elites, the people that are running our defense programs, and not just the United States defense like the DoD, I think they have the contractors that are out there, Lockheed and all them, where they're the ones that are like, okay, we're going to go ahead and make a ton of money because you have this kind of technology and its power, and that power is what everybody's after. And so they're going to hide it as much as possible. So I think in the next year, in 2027, I'd be really interested to see. Of course, I'm not that guy that does any kind of timelines, because any time that someone said, oh, at this date or this time or this year, and it every single time nothing happens. The millennium 2000, all your computers are going to go down. Well, nothing ever happened. And so I don't put a lot of eggs in that kind of basket. What I think it is, it's a big light show. Hey, look at me, smoke and mirrors over here. Why something really big's going on over there? And I think that's what it is. It's a technology based. Let's get everything that we can. Let's figure out what we can. Let's figure out how to weaponize it, especially with the United States. That's kind of what our DoD is about. I mean, look at our military. It's absolutely horrendous. It's huge. It's wild, the stuff that we got. I just
Did
talked
you
to
know that one aircraft carrier of the United States Navy has a bigger air force than most air forces in the world?
correct.
One
So
aircraft carrier.
and here's a fact for you, every single one of our aircraft carriers can run on the open ocean for 25 years without stopping. At
Mhm.
least a minimum. They're all nuclear powered, and they can carry up to, if not more than 5,000 people. Some are a little bit smaller, but not by much. Our budget for defense is higher than the next 20 countries combined. Like, it's ridiculous what we got. So if you take that kind of budget and all the stuff that we've been finding out with all the recent developments in our political stuff, where's this money going? Where's that money going? Where's these black budget programs? Well, once you start adding up the numbers, you're like, holy smokes, dude, we're putting billions, trillions of dollars into these programs. Now, if they're the guys that are like, let's say way back when, you got the military goes out and finds a couple wrecks in Roswell, and they say, oh my goodness, this was a hot air balloon. Let's just say that. Okay, cool. Even 80 years ago, you sit there and be like, okay, we need to figure out what the heck this is. We have this metal that wants to crumple up and then shift right back by itself, and all these crazy stories. That's going to pique some interest. And with the amount of money that we're pouring into our defense program, and that defense program's pouring money into like Lockheed Skunk Works, you name whatever entity you want after that. Hey, let's put all these aircraft or these finding crash sites and all these wreckage that we're finding and give it to these people. That way we got plausible deniability. They're doing it smart. They got the money to do it smart. And unfortunately, I'm a little scared about that, because then you have a subcontract that's out there that might actually have a little bit more power than the DoD. And that's a little worrisome for some people, but I don't try to put too many eggs in that basket either.
I want to know really what the big secret is. Is it something to do with religion? Is it something to do? I don't think it's demons. I refuse to believe that it's demons. And I don't think I'm being naive on that at all. But I do believe that there is a tie-in to the religious aspect of everything, whether it's the true existence of a God or God, whatever you believe in. Okay, not pushing my beliefs on anybody, but it is something that I believe that there is something that is potentially scaring these people as to why. And it's not just about the anti-gravitics, zero gravity. It's a lot more. It could be the real answers of life. And let's face it, life is about control. Life is about control. And if they have control of what we eat, if they have control of our sky, they have control of the air, they have control of taxation, which, people are getting taxed to death. You think you're getting taxed to death in the US? Come to Canada. All these people who say, I'm coming to Canada, orange man bad, or whatever they say. Okay. Let's see how you like 54 to 60% taxes. Woo. On everything.
Man, that's worse than California.
And that adds up. That's municipal tax, provincial tax, federal tax, then your tax on everything that you buy. Okay? Absolutely everything. You are taxed to the max. Right?
I'll tell you what, man, I got a spare room. Why don't you just move down here with me?
Oh,
I have no sales tax.
My cousin's trying to get me to Vegas. That's why one of the reasons why I want to go to Vegas, so I can hang out with my cousin. He's like a brother to me, right? And I've never had a brother. So, but I don't bring up the whole political aspect of everything, okay? But when it comes to this subject, it makes me wonder why they are so afraid. Is it the control? Is it religion? Is it a combination of both? Or that they have no control and they realize that the multi-billions of dollars they're spending on defense mean absolutely nothing to these entities?
I couldn't agree more with you on that aspect. When it comes to these entities, we have found every Department of Defense across the world, whether it be ours, Russia's, China's, Korea's, whoever, Ukraine, we are absolutely powerless against these. Absolutely powerless. You've seen the rocket that we shot at one and it just bounced off it like it was nothing. And it just kept on like, whatever, dude, let's go. And I don't know if we're embarrassed, if we're scared half to death. I don't know if it has to do with religion. I'm going to save my opinion when it comes to that one, only because of the way I look at religious beliefs. If you go back to when the news came out in 2017 and in the Wall Street Journal, they went to the Vatican and asked, hey, what would happen if, we found out these were real? And they're like, oh, no, we're good, dude. We're totally able to accept that because we don't have the ability to ask God, what he created somewhere else. Everything was created in his image. So, hey, check it out, and they were completely fine with it. So in my mind, I don't think it has a lot to do with religion. I think in that particular stance, there were certain religions that were created that were just about control. And I think that a lot of things in this world are about control. Not just that. I think politics are about control. I think money is about control. I think everything that we do is about control. You know, you go over to Europe and you have to have a passport no matter where you go. And that's the reason why Europeans come to the United States and they're like, holy crap, dude, you guys can actually travel past state lines without a passport? Well, yeah, duh. Dude, I have to have a little card to go up and see Dave or down to Mexico. That's it. I just have a little card and it's in my wallet and it's whatever. And it's all about control. When it comes to this kind of technology or what's going on, the deeper I've been getting into it, it's harder for me to take away what might be real and what might not be real. Because once you get into when you hear these people that are, talking in the Senate, and you hear these hearings that we're having where the House of Representatives are like, what are you guys doing? What is this? What is this about? What are these entities that might be interdimensional? Tulsi Gabbard is saying this, and it's like, dude, okay, hold on a second. These things are coming from where? They're not even coming from space. They're coming from a different dimension. The waters are getting so clouded. It's very hard to find your direction of what you want to believe in, and that might be another form of control.
And that's why we've also recently seen a separation now of UAP and UFO.
Yes.
They will disclose some UAP, but they don't have to disclose the UFO.
Oh.
Because now they've separated. And remember, Grant, when everybody was giving me hell about saying that there is a difference between the two?
Yeah. Yep. That was a while back. And you refused to use UAP. You stuck with UFO.
Yeah. And yet here we are. It's separated now. Go figure. Go figure.
I don't even know what to think anymore. I mean, I listened to all these interviews with all these people, and there's one, in fact, that I got to listen to tonight after this, where a gentleman that used to work for NASA, and he's talking about what we figured out with the UAP and UFO and the differences and interdimensionals and why they kind of screwed up and dropped the ball on it. And I'm getting ready to listen to that, so I might make a report on that for you next week or Monday or whenever you need me. But yeah, it's getting crazier and crazier. It's a very fun time to live in, but people, take everything with a grain of salt. Do your homework. Don't just unbiasedly believe something. Put your own filter on it and say, okay, is this something that I can believe in? And is this something I can take away? Where's the evidence? And do a little bit of sleuthing on it and figure it out. We all can't be wrong.
So you excited to be starting the UFO report next week?
Oh, this is amazing. I love this. This is right up my alley. Oh my goodness.
That's good, man. I know you're going to be absolutely great at it, my friend.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, my man. I love seeing you.
Well, you know what? We're going to have some fun with it, and we're going to, get into some in-depth conversations, just like the Wizard. I know you're going to follow up with the Wizard. You got big shoes to fill, but you filled them pretty good in the past with us. So we're pretty comfortable with the idea that you're going to do a good job here, my man, in taking that part over.
I appreciate you so much, and I'll do my best. I promise you.
Of course. Now people just want to know, when are you going to be able to restart UFO Max?
As soon as I'm able to walk. And once I can get the boot, I guess it's called, on, that you are able to walk on, and I can get down the stairs. Everything's down there. It's just not set up right now. It's kind of a mess. Once I can get everything set up and I can physically get downstairs without taking multiple breaks, then I'll come back. And it's going to be soon, as soon as feasibly possible. And especially since I removed myself from the rest of the house, which is going to make it that much easier.
Grant Baker, everybody. He'll be on Monday for the UFO report. Coming up next, the final UFO report of the Wizard. And of course, we kick things off with Swamp Dweller.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy. We are clear. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. And everybody else, I love you guys. Hit that like button. As soon as I get off here, I forgot to hit it, but I'm going to hit it right when I get off here. And
Are you going to be up for a while?
oh, dude. Yeah, I'll be up.
I'll call you after the show. Okay.
All right. Sweet.
All right.
All right. Bye, guys.
Grantavius Max, everybody. We love him around here. I see the wizard has popped in. His hair looks fantastic. Even looks clean shaven. We'll show you what he looks like when we return. All right. Let's bring the wizard in. There he is.
There I am.
The final time, buddy.
The final time. Well, the final time as the UFO report.
Yeah. Not the
But
final
I'm sure
time
I'll be
forever.
back from time to time.
No.
No?
You're fired.
I'm completely gone. Okay.
Completely
Well,
gone. Completely gone until the next time you come on, buddy.
I'll just close that chapter off then.
Oh man, I absolutely love you, Josh, and I mean it. I'll say it on the air. You're damn good. You are damn good, and not only are you good, but you're freaking great people, dude. Great people.
I appreciate that. I really do.
All right. Let's say a big thank you to Little Kim, Area 54, Benno, Swamp Dweller times 4, Benno times 2, JSCO Jules, and Tim Mothman's goatee. Tim wouldn't, but his goatee would. Thank you for the love, everybody. I really appreciate it. It helps with what we do each and every night here on the show. Here we go, everyone. Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us as we are preparing for Swamp Dweller and the UFO report with the wizard, Josh Rutledge. But first, I want to say hello to all of you tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is teloteropathy. Teloteropathy is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. We moved to Port Charlotte, Florida, in June 2016. Initially, the homes surrounding us were mostly vacant. During that time, I had two strange experiences. The first was around midnight. I had gone out on the lanai to have a cigarette. As I stood up to go into the house, I began to smell this immensely powerful odor. It was a sweet, musky, skunky, weird smell I have never experienced before. I had the windows open, as it was pretty nice during these cool months. The smell emanated powerfully throughout the home for about 15 minutes before clearing. The second encounter was not too long after. It was approximately 6 a.m. I was getting my husband's lunch ready for work. Again, I was out on the lanai. I hear two owl calls coming from the neighborhood behind my house. They sounded strange, but I really didn't pay too much mind to it. Then I heard what I can only describe as a great ape coming from the wooded area down the street. It was very loud and deep. I stood up and walked over to that side of the yard and thought to myself, what the heck? Did the neighbors get a chimp? Both of these events happened in 2018. Since that time, the vacant homes have sold and are now occupied. I have not had any further experiences. I had randomly commented on a Facebook post about these experiences that I had, just giving the location as Southwest Florida. A man replied asking me where this happened. He lived in Port Charlotte and had a friend who had a very strange encounter. I messaged him and said that I'm also in Port Charlotte, and I told him exactly where I lived. I discovered he is only a few blocks away. Apparently, his friend came into the house white as a ghost and absolutely terrified, exceedingly early one morning. He told him he was not going to believe what he just saw, but in the center of the road near the wooded lots, he saw a 4 to 5 foot tall, chimpanzee-like creature watching him. The man I spoke with is a teacher and stated that his friend is not the type of person to fabricate stories. He said the man was literally shaking. That encounter was about 5 years ago, and to the best of his recollection, our encounters were less than a mile away from each other. There have been several reports from Charlotte County, quite a few here in Port Charlotte. Thank you for taking the time to read my report. I genuinely enjoy your channel and hope to see other stories similar to mine.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every day and night. And Swamp Dweller will be a guest next week on the show. So make sure you tune in for that as well. From the swamp to the stars, time for the UFO report. The final time with the wizard, Josh Rutledge.
Space Out Radio presents a UFO report. The UFO wizard makes his presence known. Just Rutledge is ready to go.
All right, the wizard. After tonight, we got to say goodbye to you from this segment. But, you know, you'll still be back as a guest and as a panelist and all sorts of stuff. And I got to tell you, man, you did great. You absolutely did great.
Thank you, Dave. I really enjoyed the time that I was able to do the UFO report. Again, echo just the appreciation of the community who just instantly took me in as a part of the show, as part of the Spaced Out Radio family. And so, again, really have enjoyed my time. I'd love to come back, as a guest, as a panelist. I'm sure there will be, disclosure and other things related that will happen in the future. And I'd love to come back on and talk about them and share my thoughts and opinions and stuff. That'd be great.
I'm going to tell you right now, man, I got to know you very well over the last couple of years. And the one thing that I absolutely love about your UFO reports is you're very level-headed with this subject. You don't get too high. You don't get too low. You're not like me who brings in your personal emotion into it. And I think it's very level study. And I think you made us better. And so I just want to say publicly, thank you for making us better. You're one of a kind. And I really have appreciated our friendship over the years. And I can't wait for those, that friendship to continue. I know when we do events, like when we go to Vegas, I know you're already talking about coming to our next Vegas event whenever we set that. When the prices at Vegas go down, holy cow, the hotels are expensive right now. But
yeah,
that's for another argument for another day. But I got to tell you, man, you're genuine, and you are who you say you are, and the work you do and the love that you have for this subject is second to none, and you need to be applauded for that.
Well, I thank you, Dave. I really do. I do have strong emotions and things about various topics in the world, but I try to express those in a more constructive way. So I appreciate the recognition, and I got a little tear is forming at the corner of my eye right now. It's probably because I ate popcorn and I rubbed my eyes or something, but I appreciate everything you said. And I think that, this will not be the end of us two sharing the screen and talking about this topic. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. Very good, my friend. Very good. And I'm very happy that, unfortunately you have to move on, but I'm very happy of the time that we have had on this show. And you know what? We got one more to do here. I want to kick things off. I don't know if you saw Hillary Clinton earlier, but she actually had to testify in the Epstein files. And then she went on to say at the end of her testimony, she thought it was weird that they started asking her about UFOs and Pizzagate, which is one of the ugliest conspiracy theories out there. But let's focus on the UFOs, because Hillary is really the one who brought out the UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. She did it on Jimmy Kimmel in 2015 when she was running for president against Donald Trump in his first term, or right before he got elected to his first term. And here she is, talking about, do you remember when she said, Jimmy, we don't call them UFOs anymore. We call them UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. And that's really where it kicked off, and that acronym took off from there. And I think she knows a lot more about UFOs than what we think. And we know her and her husband Bill have been very, very hot button topic on the UFO subject. So were you surprised that she made the comment about it today?
Maybe a little bit, only because she really could have just sidestepped the entire question and not really provided any type of response. But she chose to provide, what little bit of response that she did. Maybe it was because she was under oath and she felt, kind of the sense of loyalty and respect that it means to be under oath and to make a statement. I don't know, but you think about Hillary. Hillary was like you talked about. She was not just a first lady, right? She was later part of the official cabinet within the inner circle, if you will, for during the Obama administration. I think the first I can't remember. I don't know all the
Wasn't she Secretary of State?
She was. Yeah, she was basically Marco Rubio's job, I think, for that time. Now, granted, she had, there was a lot of fallout around things around email servers and blah, blah, blah. And I don't really want to get into all of that stuff. But just to say that she would have been in a position to be, to receive intelligence briefs much similar to what Marco Rubio, or the same as what Marco Rubio likely receives. And so stands to reason that she may have been read in on, read it on the Nimitz case, or, the case out, off the coast of California, Catalina Islands. Is that Nimitz is East Coast, and that was but anyways. So yeah, bottom line, I think that she may be in the know as far as the breadth and depth of the UFO UAP topic. But obviously she's still held to the same classification that everybody else is. As far as to this day, to as of when we're doing this episode, I have not seen still an executive order from Trump officially, writing this into the books that this is something they should go do. So because of that, because he hasn't officially, declassified any of this that we know of, it would be, she would not be able to go beyond the statement that she gave.
Let's get to that, because there's one thing to talk about when you're saying, hey, I'm going to order those files be released, but it's a huge different idea when we talk about an executive order. He has not brought out an executive order on the UFO side. I personally don't think he will, due to national security or whatever it may be, but this is the closest we've got. What do you think about that? Are you, in your circles who you're talking to, are you surprised an executive order didn't come down after such heavy-handed talk?
Not surprised, no. I like we kind of talked about and hinted at earlier in the week, and then at the end of last week, and then really when it was all transpiring. I think this was it was a post of timing and convenience, and the fact that Obama had been so public about his statements. Like I talked about, psychologically, Trump may have seen it as an opportunity to be better than Obama by making the statement that he made, but without any necessarily teeth, because he didn't follow it up with the proper, kind of administrative action that would have been necessary for the Department of War or whomever else to actually comply with his order. When we talked about it during, the Pete Hegseth interview, when that reporter cornered him and kept asking him questions about it, ultimately he said, we'll do whatever we have to comply with the executive order. So again, until Trump issues an executive order on this, there's nothing the Department of War or anybody else really has to do to comply with it. Because it's just a post, it's a tweet or whatever they call them on Truth Social. So I'm not surprised that he didn't follow it up, because again, his demeanor on the plane when he was talking about it did not come across as someone who was really all that invested in the topic. And I used this at the time to say, this is why I think the whole claim that, Trump has this big grand speech planned for later this year on the topic may not be accurate either, because Trump just really seemed more concerned with the fact that Obama said something more so than the topic that Obama said something about.
Let's get to that for a second, because in the last hour I talked to Grant Baker about it. And Grant will be taking over the UFO report from you, which Grant is a great guy, and I know our audience is going to love him just as much as they love you. And I asked him point blank, when Peter Ducey asked that question on Air Force One about Obama mentioning aliens are real, Trump could have dismissed it. I realize he has a real loathing for Obama for whatever reason. I'm Canadian. I got no skin in the game. Okay. But for whatever reason, there is that case. And if we look at it and just the way he said, that he broke his oath, his security oath, by mentioning that he's in a lot of trouble, and maybe I have to disclose in order to bail him out of this, paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
That just, like, he could have swept it under the rug. He was just making a funny comment on a podcast. We're not going to deal with that. Like, I could see George Bush Jr. just kind of sloughing off the topic, saying exactly that. Hey, you just made a comment. We're not dealing with that. Ask some real questions or whatever it may be. Yet Trump sure put some flames on the fire. He fanned the flames on that. Do you think he did that in order to cover up something else? Or do you think he did that because he's a spur of the moment guy who makes off the cuff comments and talks before he thinks sometimes?
I think it's probably the latter. It was too, it was a question that was not related to any of the previous questions or conversations. And so he was hit with it, and he gave, kind of an immediate gut reaction response. I've actually watched a lot of different shows and things with people talking about Trump's, Air Force One response. And most people kind of hint at or flat out say the same thing, is that, and we've talked about it on here before, is that Trump is very spontaneous and somewhat chaotic in what he says, when he says it, and how he says it. And so I think that he was hit with a question he wasn't expecting. He responded the way he did. And in that response is kind of a hidden, or even if, not that hidden, to say, well, if Trump's response was that Obama shared classified information and that was illegal and he shouldn't have done that, then Trump's making that statement is an admission that Obama's statement is true. Therefore, Trump making that statement is also illegal and classified and shouldn't have been done. So then that begs the question, was Trump then basically forced to make his truth post, not so much to bail Obama out, but to bail himself out?
I have no idea. That's a good point. That's a very good point. And I just don't understand where this is all going. There has to be something that we're missing on this, Josh. There really does. Because I don't think it's as simple as the way they're covering it.
I don't know. I will say that what I don't think it is I don't think it is another attempt to deflect or detract from the Epstein files. I just over the weekend, I think I sent you a couple of screenshots, or actually over the week, I was looking at trends on google.com. I think it's trends.google.com, which is a fascinating site if you ever want to know what people are searching for. But I typed in, disclosure or UFO Trump, and the amount of search keywords on that stuff is relatively low compared to keywords related to the Epstein files. So although there may be, in the Venn diagram, if you will, of UFO people and Epstein file, justice people, there may be, a significant overlap between the two. I think that if you were to compare the two, the demographic of the two circles, it's going to be significantly smaller on the UFO side of the house. So I don't think in him making that statement, it really is that big of a distraction opportunity from the Epstein files. So I think that, like I said, it was he was hit. Obama made the statement he did. He was hit with the question he wasn't expected. He gave his gut reaction response. Later, he made his truth post, in my opinion, to try to, dig him out of a little bit of a hole. But if he doesn't follow it up with an executive order, then it really means nothing. And I think that we as a community, we want there to be more to some of this stuff sometimes. But I think it may have just been a situation of like right time, right place. We got the response we did. And, just like Obama posted the next day to say, what I meant is that there's probably life out there in the universe and blah, blah, blah. Trump's Truth Social statement, although more direct towards the quote unquote disclosure, without following it up with an actual executive order, is just as empty and backpedaling as Obama's statement.
We're going to get to this topic and more on Spaced Out Radio as we have the wizard, Josh Rutledge, in for the UFO report tonight. And we are so glad to have the wizard here. It's always a good time. More UFO talk coming right up in the final half hour.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy, we're clear.
Cool.
Good job, my man.
Thank you. Good job to yourself. It's really I don't know. I know you've had to do it before, but I don't know how people do a podcast or any like a radio show where you don't have people to bounce things off of, like where it's just one person talking for long periods of time. Like it would be really hard for me to do that without having somebody to bounce, to make a statement and have them push back or provide a different point of view or something. So I don't know how people that have just a one person podcast or radio show, I don't know how they do it.
I don't know how they do it either, my man. Brent Thomas is like that. I don't know how he does it, but he is so damn good at it.
I mean, I guess if you were just going on, like, I've been watching lately a lot of Vetted. Patrick does a good job of just kind of, but like Patrick it's not really a discussion. It's like he's laying out, his thoughts and ideas, and the discussion comes after, the episode where people reply and things in the comments. It's not like where I'm, where I would be like, what do you guys think in the moment and need some type of immediate response in order to proceed. I think that's the big difference, is that people that do a singular show, they've probably already laid out everything they want to try to talk about in that show. And they just kind of go down the list of, I want to talk about this thing, and I want to highlight this, and I want to play this clip, and so on and so forth.
Well, I mean, there's also a big difference too, my friend. And this isn't a shot at people like Patrick at Vetted, who I've never spoken to him, but I heard he's a nice guy, right? I have. And I think part of the issue is a lot of these guys are doing this full time. They've created an audience. The audience understands in order to get that out there, they super chat, they hit subscribe, they make comments to keep the algorithms going. Okay. And they know, because he has a consistent schedule and a consistent broadcasting schedule. His schedule allows him to be there at times, which is going to benefit the East Coast, Central Time, and West Coast. So there's a lot of different things. So doing it full time is something that allows him that ability to get the proper research done to really divvy up a show. Like, I could tell you right now, this show that I do, if I was doing it full time, would be completely different than what we have right now. Like, I think what we do is excellent, but there would be completely different time segments, completely different aspects to this show that would probably be a lot more, I don't want to say a lot more informative. I think that's insulting to myself and my audience, but it would be a lot different than what we are doing. Like, the show we do nightly is not the show I have in my head.
Would you say that it's a fair statement that you don't have really the time to research in depth your guests that you're going to have for the evening, because you do a nightly show? You don't have the time between shows to do that deep research.
And that's why we tell authors, like, we get a lot of authors, hey, could we come on and talk about my book? No, it's not my number one. I don't have time to read your book. But number two, we're not an infomercial, right? We're not, it's not my job to promote your book.
Yeah. Well, like on my other podcast, the Shadow Signal, we have had authors on in the past that have sent us books, and we've done that. And when I do that, I tend to not talk about the book. I want to talk to the author about, what are your experiences, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
And then I give you, like, we might touch on the book or hint at the book.
You
Right.
plug the book. I'm
Right.
cutting you off because we got to get going.
Yeah.
But you plug the book, but we're not infomercials.
Right.
Here we go. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. The UFO wizard Josh Rutledge is here with us as we continue on with the UFO news coming on up here. My friend, a lot going on right now, and I know you've been on top about it. What do you have for us?
Yeah. So just kind of continuing on with the whole real quick topic of, we're talking about the first half hour around, is Trump's truth statement going to drive the release of additional stuff? We saw, I think on Monday's episode, we talked about the Department of Interior. I don't remember what it is called, but what's crap? What is her name that is over there? You talked about wanting to get into a hockey fight with their oh my God, Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes.
Tulsi Gabbard saying that, basically praising Trump of being the disclosure president. But really, we haven't seen anything else there. Representative Luna was recently on Fox News, and she said that she is actively communicating with the FBI and the Department of War for them to allow the release of some of the video footage that the Congress has been able to see for a part of their investigation that has not been made public. So that might be an interesting, while we wait, snack, if you will, appetizer. If Congress can get them to say, hey, we've seen this stuff. There's really nothing in here that's quote unquote classified. Can you all just green light us to share that with the public? That might be, like I said, a little snack, if you will, before we potentially get more details. Although like I said, I don't think we will ever get anything the way that everybody hoped it would be based on that truth statement. So it'll be interesting to see if Representative Luna is able to, with her role within the UAP transparency, the transparency group that was formed, UAP just being one of those things, if they could actually get, some of the videos that they've seen, pictures and videos that they've seen, released to the public.
Do you think after this statement, even though all the conspiracy club is going to get involved with this and, they're going to allegedly try and get all of this information out, do you see this as a distraction to maybe look for more plausible answers rather than unidentified answers?
Maybe. I think that there is always going to be and I'm one of them, right? Every video that gets released, I don't want to just assume that it's truly unidentified, because when you think about it, regular Joe Schmo people are usually filming these things, and they might be military, trained, but they're still just people. And they're in a situation where we've got night vision strapped to their face, or they're looking through a camera on a drone, whatever the case may be. And they see these things that are odd, and they flag them, and they tag them, and they bring them up in the chain of command, etc. And somebody else looks at them, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, did the person see, a flock of birds through night vision that looks different than with the naked eye? And they really they weren't educated on what a flock of birds in night vision looks like. And so they flagged it and tagged it, and it went up the chain, and then ultimately gets released as, a potential UAP video. I think that it behooves us to not just take anything we get from the government claiming to be UAP, UFO, truly unidentified as such. I think it behooves us to do our due diligence and try to assess the nature of the video, when it was taken, if we can, how much information we can glean from the video itself, to make our own determinations as to whether or not we believe it to be a true unknown or not.
How is this going to affect, the idea of this? Because we keep hearing more and more coming out of DC right now that there are concerns about whether or not there is a religious connotation to this. Demons, God being real.
Yeah, I came across a Reddit post, and I don't remember the name of the poster, or I would give them credit, but they had compiled a list of every scripture in the Bible that talks about or mentions the word demons or evil spirits, and that's something, the main denominator there with all of those entries were, it always talks about demons as being a non-corporeal entity that inhabits or takes control of a human body and forces them to do terrible things. Demons are never described in the Bible as being flesh and blood creatures that terrorize people. So I think that, number one, if we say that there's a possibility that some alien life or extraterrestrial life or interdimensional life, whatever it happens to be, they may be evil. They may not have humanity's best interests in mind. Sure. I mean, there are humans like that. Why wouldn't there potentially be, non-human life that is the same? But to say that then they are demonic in the same association that you would say that, I think that the hard thing is in Christianity and in some other religions, to classify something to be demonic is to say that it goes against God. And so for those people who are God, who believe in a higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, if you then acknowledge that there are things that go against God, you might be welcoming, those things into your life. But I think that, at the end of the day, we owe it to ourselves as a people to expand our awareness on what it means, what life is, and what life is out there. And if our existence is so fragile that human intelligence is the pinnacle of what God can do, then I think we really need to take collectively a step back and look at how high we hold humanity in the great kind of pedestal of existence.
You're listening to Josh Rutledge, the UFO Wizard, here on the UFO Report on Spaced Out Radio. I think, too, that we are seeing a big debate also on what will be released and what will not be released. As you stated earlier, there are people within the organizations, Nancy Mace, Anna Paulina Luna, who are trying to get as much information out as quickly as they can. Tulsi Gabbard was another one who do they have to clear it by in order for it to come out in public?
I mean, I think it has to be completely declassified from the top down. Maybe it has to go. The office was it the office that like Lou and all those folks have to take their stuff through before it can be published or set on a podcast or whatever. There's some office in the Department of Defense that handles all of that kind of, what you can say versus not. So I would say that probably it has to be declassified. And then even once it's declassified, there still probably has to be a review process to see what can actually be said or made public versus what can't. I would imagine that, the whole declassification or release process is probably much more complicated than what Trump's truth post would imply it to be. I think that a lot of people would think about Trump's truth post and say, well, he said release it, and like somebody's just got a thumb drive sitting on their desk that has all the stuff on it, and they can just upload it to a server and send everybody a link. I think that if it happens, it still may be months, if not a year or more, before we actually see any results from it. And if that's the case, let's say it happens and let's say it takes 6 months. Who is going to be leading the accountability charge to say, hey, you said you would do this. Here's the executive order. It's been 4 months. Where are we at? Like, I would think maybe it's Luna and that, that committee that was stood up. But, I think that's going to be the harder part of this. Is right now we're all focused on it because it just happened. But as we've talked about before, the news cycle is very short. And so, what is the next thing that's going to come along that's going to distract people from this? The UFO community obviously will always be interested in it, but do we have loud enough voices that can hold people to task if there are greater things happening, such as, conflict in the world or whatever the case may be?
And that's quite possibly true. I think that's a very, very logical statement. We have about 8 minutes to go here. What do you have for us?
Yeah. So in a recent interview, James Fox, which, everybody probably knows who that is, but, he's did the Virginia, Brazil documentary most recently, but he's done a bunch of other documentaries. Probably his first was, I Know What I Saw, which was all about the Phoenix Lights event. But he recently in an interview said that he said he's that he's been told by many people in the military that about 200 miles off the East Coast, that there was almost 24/7 UFO activity happening at these coordinates that he's been given off the East Coast, about 200 miles. And he's just working out how to get to that location to be able to film. And a bunch of people on Reddit are like, well, just all you need is a guy with a boat. And somebody said, well, I'm a guy with a boat. And let me tell you that, like, to do that type of trip, to go that far out into the open ocean, like, it's not just a guy with a pontoon boat. Like, you have to have a boat big enough to carry enough fuel to get you there, to just kind of hang around for a little bit and then get you back. You got have enough food and resources and provisions and medical and all kinds of other things that could come up with being 200 miles into ocean waters. So, it's not a light undertaking. It's probably somewhere around $30,000 to $50,000 or $100,000 is what it's going to take to put all this together. Do I think that James Fox is, pretty resourceful and he could probably figure it out and make it happen? Yes. But is it going to happen in the next 6 months to a year? Probably not. So I do think that, one thing I'll say about James Fox is he's like a dog with a bone. He will go after it until he gets it. He started on the Varginha case. Sorry, I pronounced it as Virginia a while ago, but the Varginha case in Brazil, he started on that like 15 years ago. And it took him till just recently to where he was actually able to get down there and do the interviews and everything else. So, we may have to wait and play the long game on when we're going to get to see this stuff from James Fox. But also, I think that if he could team up with Avi Loeb, because Avi Loeb, they have the ability to charter that big ship to go out there and look for, BB size, meteorite fragments on the ocean floor. If they can do that, surely they can go sit in an area for 3 nights and see what UFO activity is happening. So I think there's possibilities that we could see it sooner. But anyway, I mean, regardless of what it is, I think it's fascinating that James Fox potentially has coordinates of a location off the East Coast that constantly sees UFO activity. Constantly. I'm just wondering how many just shipping container ships or I don't know if ocean liners are a thing anymore with planes, but like people coming over on ship, like how many people are potentially seeing this stuff out there that if he were to just give a general area, off the East Coast, we might actually start getting reports coming in and people giving us real information about stuff that they're seeing in that area. Because 200 miles off the East Coast is a long strip of land. So it could be 200 miles off of Maine or 200 miles off of Florida. We don't know.
That's very true. That's very true. And we also have to look too. I mean, we're focusing on that spot, but there are hundreds just in North America. There are hundreds of hot spots.
Yeah.
Okay, that have this irregular amount of UFO activity. I mean, you look at the work David Marler has done with trying to find these triangle hotspots or black triangles. I mean, he's found a number of them around the United States. Other people have found them within lakes, and that's nowhere near the Great Lakes or the oceans. But for some reason, there's these hot spots in these deep lakes. There's hot spots in the oceans around mountains. Look at Volcano Alley. Okay, from Mexico right up to Alaska, where all of these volcanoes or where there's been volcanic activity. Let's focus around Mount Shasta. UFO sightings almost every day, including UFOs coming in and out of the volcanoes. What is that about? So there are all of these hot spots, Josh.
Oh yeah. I think it's like when you think about the time and effort that you want to spend to investigate an area, it would be nice to do it in an area that has a possibility of eliminating a bunch of common explanations for UAP, UFO. Right? Over the ocean, there are probably not a lot of drones. You might have air traffic, but it's going to be high air traffic. You're not going to have little biplanes flying around 200 miles off the coast of the East Coast. So you're able to already eliminate a lot of the more prosaic explanations that people would use to, if they saw a video, say, oh, that's just an airplane, or oh, that's just a drone. No, you're 200 miles off the East Coast. Those things, it can't be those things. So I think that's why it might be interesting to investigate that area versus other hotspots, is that other hotspots have, for lack of a better word, people contamination. All right. There are things that people can do to contaminate the possibility of it being a legitimate UFO. Off the coast of 200 miles off the coast of the US, that's not the case.
No, but you are right. You are right. Of course, it does need to be investigated. Not saying that it doesn't whatsoever, but I'm wondering if they're now with the admission of this one, if they are going to come out with other hot spots where people could see this happening.
Well, there's a book by Craig Campobasso called UFO Hotspots. And I mean, it's filled with all these locations that you can go. Like it would be. I've talked about it with Shane Hurd. It would be massively fun to rent an RV and go visit as many of these UFO hotspots as possible. And then while we're there, do like a conscious contact CE5 type event and record whatever our results have to be and put it all together and put it out as episodes or one big documentary or whatever. But that would be massively fun, massively expensive too. So unless somebody wants to sponsor that, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So, but yeah, that book by Craig Campobasso, I've got it on the shelf behind me. It's a pretty good book, and there's some pretty cool hotspots in there.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, my man. It really is.
Real quick.
Yes.
I had something that I wanted to, my last UFO report on the show, I wanted to leave y'all with, if I can.
Please.
I was thinking about our crash retrievals and the possibility that, legitimately people say, all these psionics folks and everything, that their consciousness controlled, right? They don't have controls the way we think about them with a joystick or whatever. They're conscious controlled. Well, if they're interdimensional or whatever, if they're still here and consciousness brought them here, is consciousness of some sort keeping them here? Or would they just phase out of our existence back to the dimension in which they originate? So if some sort of consciousness potentially is keeping some number of these craft here, is it on purpose?
And with that, we will wrap up the Time of the Wizard on Spaced Out Radio and say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, Joshy.
Thank you, my friend. Yep, we will. We'll definitely have to make sure we stay in touch. And some of the other stuff that I've talked to you about over the last couple months, how to grow your channel and such. Any way I can help out with that kind of stuff, I'd love to. So,
absolutely. We will talk, my friend. I want to, we'll definitely figure something out here soon.
Okay. And also say that, the big preventative factor for me being on the show regularly is just the 2 nights a week or 2 days a week that I get very little sleep, and the impact that it has on family and such. But if you ever wanted to do something with me on Friday nights,
Yeah.
I could totally swing that because Saturday I don't have to get up early for anything. So just letting you know.
Not a problem, buddy. You're the best.
All right, man. I'm
All
going
right,
to head
man.
out. Talk to you later. Thanks,
All
everybody.
right.
And I'll see you around. Catch you on the flip side.
That's the wizard, everybody. The wizard right there. We love him around here. And thank you, Josh, for everything that you've done. I'm going to get going here too because I got some editing to do and I want to I got to call Grant back. So that's the main reason why. But thank you tonight to Little Cam, Area 54, Benno, Swamp Dweller ×4, Benno again, JSCO, Luscious Jewels, and our good friend Tim Mothman and his goatee. Tomorrow night on the show, we wrap up the week with Jen Noseworthy. We're going to talk about historical paranormal events in the province of Newfoundland. So we're going to have a good time. We'll see you all tomorrow night. Thank you for being awesome. Do me a favor. I want to know what you felt about Varla's conversation, about Grant coming back into the UFO world, and with Josh having to leave the spot of the wizard. All right. You let us know. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.